In the middle of the 14th century, Europe faced a disaster unlike anything before. It did not arrive with warning or violence. It came quietly, carried by ships, rats, and fleas, moving along the same routes that connected the world. Within 4 years, nearly these cities, people lived close, worked close, ate close, and slept close. Rats thrived in grain stores, fleas thrived on rats, and humans lived right on top of both. The Black Death did not strike a weak or broken world. It struck a world that believed it was growing stronger. By the early 1300s, Europe was crowded, not just busy, but packed. Cities like Paris, Florence, Venice and London were bursting beyond their old walls. Houses leaned over narrow streets. Families lived stacked on top of one another, room after room, floor after floor. Europe was not isolated. It was part of a vast moving network that stretched far beyond its borders. Trade routes linked cities, kingdoms and continents. A merchant in Italy could handle silk from China, spices from India, grain from the Black Sea. Goods moved constantly, carried by caravans, carts, and ships. These routes brought wealth and growth. They made cities powerful. They made life feel connected and alive. But they also carried things no one could see. Merchants traveled from market to market. Sailors moved from port to port. Animals traveled with them. So did fleas. So did disease. Movement was life in the medieval world. And once the plague entered that movement, there was no stopping it. It traveled silently, ahead of rumors, ahead of prayer, ahead of death itself. Before it terrified cities or emptied streets, the plague already existed. It was not born in Europe, and it did not begin with people. It lived far away, in the open steppe lands of Central Asia, in places most Europeans would never see. There, it moved quietly through the natural world, passing between burrowing animals that had lived with it for centuries. Fleas fed, moved on, and fed again, carrying the sickness without intention or awareness. It caused no panic, no collapse, no fear. It was not yet a human disease. It was contained, balanced, and unnoticed. And for generations, it stayed that way, waiting. For a long time, that world stayed separate from ours. But in the early 1300s, things began to change. The climate shifted, seasons became less predictable. Dry years followed good ones. Animals that once lived far from people started moving closer, searching for food and water, and humans were already on the move. Trade routes cut across the land, camps, caravans, and towns appeared where none had been before. In those places, people, animals, and insects mixed in ways they never had. The sickness didn't change. Nature didn't change. What changed was contact. The plague crossed from the wild into the human world, not in a single moment, but gradually, quietly, carried along paths people believed brought life and opportunity. Once that boundary was crossed, There was no way to close it again. By the early 13th century, the world was more connected than it had ever been. Much of that connection came from the Mongol Empire, which stretched across Asia and into Eastern Europe, binding distant regions together under a single system of control. Roads that were once dangerous became safer. Trade moved faster. Merchants, messengers, and caravans crossed enormous distances with fewer obstacles than ever before. Silk from China, spices from India, grain from the Black Sea all flowed along the same routes. Ideas traveled, wealth traveled, people traveled. And in that movement, something else traveled too. The plague did not need an army to reach new lands. It only needed stability, speed, and connection. And the Mongol world provided all three. The plague did not enter Europe quietly. It arrived at a city called Kaffa on the edge of the Black Sea. Kaffa was a fortified port, rich and crowded, a crucial link between the trade routes of Asia and the ships of the Mediterranean. In 1346, the city was under siege. An army surrounded its walls, cutting it off from the land. Then the sickness appeared among the attackers. Soldiers began to die in huge numbers, their camps turning into places of fear and decay. Desperate to end the siege, the attackers made a choice that would echo across continents. They hurled infected bodies over the city walls. Soon, people inside Kaffa began to fall sick as well. Panic spread through the streets. Merchants knew what to do. They fled by sea, and with them the plague found its passage into Europe. The ships that fled Kaffa did not sail into empty water. They followed familiar routes, the same sea lanes Mediterranean routes that connected Europe's great ports. Within weeks, the plague appeared again, in Genoa, in Venice, in Marseille. Each arrival looked the same. Ships entered harbour as they always had. Sailors staggered ashore. Rats slipped onto the docks. Fleas found new hosts. Port authorities reacted too late or not at all. Trade was too important to halt. The sea, once a source of wealth and connection, became a highway for death. From port to port, the plague moved faster than fear, faster than warning, carried by the rhythm of maritime life itself. The plague did not stop at the ports. From the harbours, it moved inland, following the same paths that fed Europe's cities. Merchants carried it along roads and rivers. Travellers brought it from town to town. Carts rolled through the countryside, stopping in villages that had never seen a ship. Inns filled, markets opened, hands were shaken, food was shared. No one knew they were passing on a death sentence. Within weeks, inland cities began to fall sick. Paris, Florence, Milan. Towns far from the sea felt the same fevers, the same sudden deaths. What arrived by ship now moved on foot, by horse, by cart. The plague was no longer a coastal disaster. It had become a European one. One day you are fine. You are working, eating, laughing, arguing with your neighbors, going to church, and the next day your body turns against you. Fever burns through your skin, your head pounds, your stomach twists, standing becomes difficult. Then you feel it, a swelling beneath your arm, or along your neck, or near your groin, hard, tender, painful. It feels like a stone growing inside your body. For many, death comes within days. Has turned poisonous. Others blame foreign traders or distant lands or the anger of God. No one understands what is happening, but everyone understands what it feels like. Fear. People start watching each other more closely. A cough draws stares. A stumble not out of cruelty, but terror. And as the city empties, and the countryside fills with refugees, the plague moves with them. The dead begin to outnumber the living. At first, families try to bury their own, following familiar rites, whispering prayers over shallow graves. But the deaths do not slow. Bells ring too often, then not at all. Gravediggers fall sick. Priests refuse to come. Soon, there is no one left to perform the rituals. Bodies are dragged into the streets and left at doorsteps. Carts move through the city at dawn, collecting the dead like refuse. Men throw bodies into pits without names, without markers, without ceremony. Husbands, wives, children disappear into the same ground. The fear of the living outweighs the respect for the dead. What once defined dignity and order collapses under the weight of necessity. Death is no longer personal. It has become logistical. People turn to those they believe should have answers: physicians, scholars, healers. But medicine in the 14th century is unprepared for what it faces. Doctors study the stars, searching for meaning in the heavens. They blame bad air, poisoned winds, an imbalance of humours. They prescribe bloodletting, purging, herbs, charms. Some wear long robes and masks stuffed with spices, hoping scent will protect them. Others refuse to enter the sick room at all. Treatments vary from city to city, but the result is always the same. Nothing works. The sick continue to die. Confidence in knowledge collapses alongside the body. What was once trusted science becomes guesswork. And as medicine fails, fear finds new places to grow. As medicine offers no answers, people turn to faith. Many believe the plague is not a sickness at all, but a judgment, a punishment sent by God for human sin. Churches fill with the frightened and the desperate. Prayers grow louder as deaths multiply. Processions move through the streets, people chanting, begging for mercy, hoping repentance will stop the suffering. Some whip their own bodies in public, believing pain might redeem them. Others fast, confess, and give away what little they have left. Fear reshapes belief. God is no longer a comfort, but a force to be feared. And as faith becomes desperate, it does not slow the plague. It only gathers more bodies together, making the suffering spread even faster. People are dragged into the streets. Entire communities are attacked, not because they are guilty, but because fear demands someone to blame. Even acts meant to stop the plague only deepen the suffering. Order collapses, justice disappears. In the shadow of mass death, cruelty finds permission. The plague does not just destroy bodies, it fractures societies and reveals how thin the line between fear and violence truly is. When fear no longer finds answers, it looks for targets. As the plague continues to kill without pattern or mercy, anger begins to turn outward. Rumors spread just as quickly as the disease. Some blame outsiders, foreigners, travelers, religious minorities, neighbors who seem different. Accusations grow louder. Violence follows. Homes are marked. When the plague finally loosens its grip, the world it leaves behind feels unfamiliar. Villages stand empty, their doors hanging open, their fires long extinguished. Fields lie untended, crops rotting where they grew, fences collapsing into the soil. Homes slowly sink back into the earth, roofs caving in without anyone left to repair them. Roads that once carried carts, pilgrims and traders fall silent, grass pushing through worn stone and packed dirt. In some places, there is no one left to remember the dead at all. Nature begins to reclaim what people abandoned. Wolves move closer to towns. Birds nest in empty buildings. Survivors walk carefully through this altered landscape, unsure of what. But it does so quietly, cautiously, in a world thinned by death and forever changed. When life begins to return, it does not return to the world that existed before. Too many people are gone. Fields need hands that no longer exist. Workshops stand empty. Lords and landowners search for workers and find none. Those who survive discover something new. Their labor has value. cautiously now, carrying the memory of a time when half of everything disappeared and never fully returned.